My brothers and sisters, let me ask you something very simple. How many of us have been there? The lights are off, the blanket is warm, the body is tired, and the mind says, I'll pray in a minute. Just one more moment, just a little rest. And then that minute turns into 10, 10 turns into sleep, and before you know it, the prayer is gone. The night passes and the soul feels a little heavier in the morning. What is shocking is not that we fall asleep. We are human. What is shocking is what happens when we change one small habit in that very moment. Many people think that worship requires a special place, a special posture, or a perfect state. They think, I must be standing, I must be fully awake, I must be alert. But sometimes Allah opens doors in the places we least expect, even on our beds. There are people who began praying while lying down because they were exhausted, sick, or emotionally broken. They whispered a few words. They raised their hands under the blanket. They spoke to Allah quietly, honestly, without formality. And the shocking result was not just peace, it was transformation. When you pray in bed, something changes. You are not performing for anyone. There is no audience. No one sees you except the one who matters most. The heart speaks more honestly when the body is weak. Tears come easier when the world is quiet. The soul feels closer because distractions are fewer. Some people think praying in bed is laziness, but there is a difference between laziness and humility. Laziness says, I don't care. Humility says, Ya Allah, I am tired, but I still need you. And Allah loves when His servant comes to Him in any state, as long as the heart is present. There are nights when your body cannot stand, but your soul is screaming for help. Nights when you smile during the day, but the pillow knows the truth. Nights when your chest feels heavy and your mind won't slow down. Those nights are invitations. Invitations to speak to Allah exactly as you are. And here is the shocking result. When people start praying in bed sincerely, they start praying more consistently. The barrier is removed. The excuse disappears. They no longer say, I'll pray when I have energy. They say, I'll pray because I need Allah. And slowly, prayer stops being a burden and starts becoming relief. Some say, but is it acceptable? Ask yourself this. Would you rather speak to Allah lying down or not speak to Him at all? Allah's mercy is far greater than our rigidity. He knows your struggle. He knows your exhaustion. He knows what you are carrying in your heart. And something else happens. When you make dua in bed, you fall asleep with Allah on your tongue. You place your worries in His care before you close your eyes. You remind yourself that you are not alone, that peace follows you into your sleep. There are people who slept after praying in bed and woke up with answers they didn't expect. Not always solutions, but strength. Not always removal of problems, but calm within them. That is the shocking result. Not magic, not miracles overnight, but a heart that feels held. My brothers and sisters, never underestimate a small act done sincerely. Never think Allah is too far because you are too tired. Even a whisper counts. Even a tear counts. Even a broken sentence counts. If you cannot stand, sit. If you cannot sit, lie down. If you cannot speak, think. If you cannot think, just feel Allah near you because He is closer than you imagine. Tonight, if you are tired, don't walk away from prayer. Bring prayer to where you are. Bring it to your bed. Bring it to your weakness. And watch how Allah brings strength where you never thought it could come. When we talk about sincerity, we are talking about something far deeper than physical actions. Many people assume that worship is measured by how perfect the posture is, how long a person stands, or how outwardly impressive the act appears. But Allah has never measured us the way people measure each other. He does not look at the mattress beneath you or the position of your body. He looks directly at the heart. A heart that turns to Him honestly, even in weakness, carries more weight than a body that stands proudly while the heart is absent. There are moments in life when energy disappears, when the body feels heavy and the soul feels fragile. In those moments, some people think they are disqualified from worship. They believe that if they cannot stand properly, concentrate fully, or perform everything in an ideal way, then it is better to do nothing at all. This is one of the greatest misunderstandings. Allah is not waiting for perfection. He is welcoming effort. He is not asking for strength. He is responding to sincerity. Sincerity means coming as you are, without pretending, without exaggeration, without trying to impress. When a person prays in bed because they are exhausted, sick, overwhelmed, or emotionally drained, and they still choose to turn to Allah, that act carries a powerful message. It says, Ya Allah, I have nothing left, but I still choose you. That kind of prayer is heavy in the unseen world, even if it feels small to the person making it. Posture is a means, not the goal. The goal is connection. Standing, bowing, and prostrating are beautiful acts, but they are meant to serve the heart, not replace it. If the heart is alive, even a whispered prayer under a blanket can be filled with light. But if the heart is absent, even the most perfect movements can feel empty. Allah knows the difference, and He responds accordingly. Many people are harsh on themselves. They think Allah is harsh with them too. They imagine that He is waiting to reject them because they prayed while lying down, because they were too tired to get up, because their focus wasn't perfect. But Allah's mercy is far greater than that. He knows what you are carrying. He knows the struggle you are facing. He knows how hard it was for you to even remember Him in that moment. That awareness changes everything. There are people who began rebuilding their relationship with Allah not from a prayer mat, but from a bed soaked with tears. They didn't have long supplications. They didn't have fancy words. They simply spoke honestly. They complained. They asked. They admitted their weakness. And that sincerity opened doors that formality never did. Sincerity leads, consistency follows. A person who believes that Allah accepts them in any state stops running away from worship. They stop saying, I'll pray when I'm better, and start saying, I'll pray because I'm broken. This shift is powerful. It removes shame and replaces it with hope. It turns prayer from a burden into a refuge. Allah never told us that worship must be easy. He told us that He is near to the tired heart, near to the overwhelmed mind, near to the person who cannot even lift their head but still remembers Him. When someone prays in bed sincerely, they are acknowledging their dependence. They are saying, without words, I cannot do this alone. That acknowledgement is beloved to Allah. Sincerity also strips away hypocrisy. When you are alone in the dark, there is no one to impress, no one to watch you, no one to praise you. It is just you and Allah. In that space, the heart speaks more freely. The tears are more real. The eyes more honest. And Allah responds to honesty in ways that surprise people. Some of the strongest spiritual moments happen when a person has nothing left to offer except truth. No strength, no energy, no confidence, just truth. And Allah loves truth. He loves when His servant comes to Him without masks, without excuses, without pretending to be strong. Never think that Allah values the form over the feeling. He is the one who created your weakness. He knows when your body cannot carry you. He knows when your mind is overwhelmed. And when you still turn to Him, even from a place of rest, that act becomes a declaration of faith. This is why sincerity outweighs posture every single time. Because posture can be copied, but sincerity cannot. Posture can exist without faith, but sincerity is faith in action. A heart that turns to Allah honestly, whether standing, sitting, or lying down, is a heart that is alive, seeking and heard. And Allah never turns away from a heart that comes to Him sincerely, even if the body is too weak to rise, even if the words are few, even if the moment feels small, because in that sincerity there is humility, dependence, and a connection that reshapes the soul from within their are moments in life when strength disappears without warning. A person can appear fine on the outside, smiling, working, talking, moving forward, yet inside they are barely holding together. These are the moments people often hide. They don't want to be seen as weak, so they keep going, even when their hearts are exhausted. But it is precisely in these weak moments that the most powerful prayers are born. Weakness has a way of removing filters. When a person is strong, they sometimes rely on their own ability, their plans, their confidence. But when weakness arrives, all of that falls away. There is no energy to pretend, no strength to impress, no patience for long explanations. What remains is the truth. And truth, when directed toward Allah, becomes one of the strongest forms of worship. Many people believe that powerful prayer comes from confidence, clarity, and perfect focus. In reality, powerful prayer often comes from desperation, from moments when the chest feels tight, the mind is restless, and the heart feels exposed. In those moments, people don't speak in polished sentences. They speak in broken words, pauses, tears, and sighs. They speak from the depth of their need. That is when prayer becomes real. Weak moments push a person to acknowledge what they usually avoid admitting, that they are not in control, that they cannot fix everything, that no matter how much effort they put in, so me matters are beyond their hands. This realization is painful, but it is also liberating. It shifts the heart away from self-reliance and toward reliance on Allah. And that shift changes the nature of prayer completely. When someone prays while feeling weak, they are not asking Allah from a place of pride. They are not making demands. They are asking from a place of humility. Humility softens the heart and opens it. It removes arrogance and replaces it with surrender. And surrender is one of the most beloved states in the sight of Allah. There are people who only discovered the sweetness of dua after they were broken. Before that, their prayers were routine, words recited without depth, motions performed without reflection. But when hardship struck, when sleep became difficult and worries became heavy, prayer transformed. It became a lifeline, something they clung to because they had nowhere else to turn. Weakness also teaches honesty. In strong moments, people often censor themselves in front of Allah. They choose words carefully. They avoid admitting certain feelings. But when weakness overwhelms them, that control fades. They admit fear. They admit confusion. They admit anger, sadness, and loneliness. They say things like, Ya Allah, I don't understand, or Ya Allah, I am tired, or Ya Allah, I cannot do this anymore. These words are not signs of weak faith. They are signs of a heart that trusts Allah enough to be honest with Him. Some of the most answered prayers come from moments when a person feels they have reached the end of themselves. Not because Allah waits for suffering, but because suffering strips away distractions. It forces the heart to focus. When everything else is quiet, the voice of the soul becomes louder. And when that voice calls upon Allah, it carries weight. Weak moments also change the way people listen. A person who is broken is more attentive. They notice signs they once ignored. They feel gratitude for small things. They recognize mercy where they once saw nothing. Their heart becomes softer, more aware, more receptive. This sensitivity deepens their connection with Allah and strengthens their prayers. Many people fear weakness. They think it means failure. But weakness can be a doorway to sincerity, humility, and closeness to Allah. When a person learns to turn their weakest moments into moments of dua, those moments no longer feel wasted. They become sacred. They become meaningful. Praying in weakness teaches a person that they don't have to wait until they feel strong to turn to Allah. They don't have to fix themselves first. They don't have to understand everything. They simply have to come. And Allah receives them as they are. This is why weak moments often create the strongest prayers. because they are not built on ego or expectation. They are built on need. And need is a language Allah understands perfectly. A heart that calls out to Him from a place of vulnerability is a heart that is open, sincere, and fully present. And Allah draws such hearts closer to Him, strengthening them in ways that cannot be seen immediately, but are felt deeply over time, reshaping how they view hardship, worship, and their own dependence on Him. One of the biggest reasons people struggle with prayer is not a lack of belief, but the feeling that prayer requires a certain level of readiness. They tell themselves they must be fully awake, perfectly focused, emotionally stable, and physically prepared before they can pray properly. When these conditions are not met, prayer is postponed. Postponement becomes habit, and habit slowly turns into distance. What many do not realize is that this distance often begins with unnecessary barriers they place between themselves and Allah. When prayer is restricted to ideal moments, it becomes fragile. Life is rarely ideal. People are tired, overwhelmed, distracted, and stretched thin. By the time the day ends, there is often little energy left. If prayer is seen as something that must wait until everything feels right, it will often be the first thing sacrificed. This is where the barrier forms, not because Allah is distant, but because the servant feels unqualified. Praying in bed removes this barrier. It sends a simple but powerful message to the heart. Connection with Allah does not require perfection. It requires intention. When a person allows themselves to pray from where they are, instead of where they think they should be, prayer becomes accessible. The fear of not doing it right disappears, and what remains is the desire to simply turn to Allah. Consistency is not built on motivation. Motivation comes and goes. Consistency is built on ease. When something is made easy, it becomes repeatable. A person who begins praying in bed during moments of exhaustion is more likely to continue praying than someone who waits for the perfect moment that rarely arrives. This small adjustment creates a powerful shift in behavior. At first, the prayer may be short, a few words, a quiet dua, a whispered remembrance. But because it is consistent, it begins to grow. The heart becomes familiar with turning to Allah regularly. Over time, this familiarity deepens. What started as a simple act done out of necessity becomes a habit rooted in comfort and trust. Removing barriers also removes guilt. Many people carry silent guilt about missed prayers, delayed worship, and broken routines. This guilt can be paralyzing. It makes them avoid prayer altogether because they feel unworthy. When they realize that Allah welcomes them even in their weakest state, that guilt begins to soften. Prayer becomes a place of healing rather than judgment. Consistency built through ease changes how a person views worship. It is no longer something heavy or intimidating. It becomes something natural, like breathing. Just as a person breathes without thinking, they begin to remember Allah without effort. This is one of the greatest spiritual gifts. A heart that turns to Allah instinctively. Praying in bed also teaches flexibility. It reminds the believer that worship is meant to support life, not compete with it. Allah did not create prayer to burden His servants, but to strengthen them. When prayer adapts to a person's circumstances, it becomes sustainable. Sustainability is what allows worship to last beyond moments of enthusiasm. As consistency grows, confidence grows with it. A person who felt distant begins to feel connected again. They no longer measure their relationship with Allah by perfection, but by presence. Even on difficult days, even on tiring nights, they know they can still turn to Him. This reassurance keeps the heart anchored. Over time, something remarkable happens. The person who once prayed in bed out of exhaustion finds themselves wanting more. They begin to sit up. They begin to focus longer. They begin to stand when they can, not out of pressure, but out of love. Consistency nurtures desire. Desire leads to growth. Removing barriers does not lower the value of prayer. It increases it. It transforms prayer from a task into a relationship that survives busy days, difficult nights, and emotional lows. A relationship that is not dependent on perfect conditions, but on sincere intention. This is why praying in bed can be the beginning of a stronger spiritual routine. It eliminates the excuses that keep people away. It invites the heart back gently without force. And when the heart returns consistently, even in small ways, Allah places blessings in that consistency that reshape a person's connection with Him, making prayer a constant presence rather than an occasional effort, and turning moments of rest into moments of remembrance that quietly transform the soul from within the night as a silence that the day does not carry. When the world slows down, distractions fade, and voices become distant, the heart finally has space to speak. During the day, the mind is crowded with responsibilities, expectations, and noise. Even when a person wants to pray, their thoughts pull them in many directions. But at night, especially when lying in bed, the soul feels exposed, and that exposure creates an opening for a deeper connection with Allah. Why at night strip life down to what truly matters? There are no performances, no comparison, no pressure to appear strong. The phone is put away, the lights are off, and the world outside the room no longer demands attention. In this stillness, a person becomes more aware of their inner state. Worries surface, regrets appear, hopes quietly rise. This is not a coincidence. It is an invitation. Many people discover that they can speak to Allah more honestly at night than at any other time. The heart is softer. Tears come without effort. Words flow without fear. When a person prays in bed during these moments, they are not rushing. There is no clock watching them. There is no one waiting. That freedom allows sincerity to deepen. The quiet of the night amplifies the voice of the soul. What is whispered feels louder. What is thought feels heavier. A simple dua carries weight because it is not competing with noise. In this calm, remembrance becomes more focused. The heart listens as much as it speaks. And in that listening, clarity begins to form. Nighttime prayer also carries vulnerability. When the body is resting, defenses drop. The strength used to hold everything together during the day is gone. A person feels their dependence more clearly. They recognize how small they are, how much they need guidance, protection, and mercy. This awareness brings humility, and humility draws the heart closer to Allah. There are worries that only surface at night. Concerns about the future, fears about loss, questions without answers. During the day, these thoughts are buried under activity. At night, they rise. When a person turns these thoughts into dua instead of anxiety, something shifts. The weight does not always disappear, but it becomes bearable. The heart feels heard. Quiet nights teach patience. When everything is still, there is no escape from thoughts and emotions. Instead of running from them, a person learns to sit with them and place them before Allah. This practice builds emotional and spiritual strength. It trains the heart to seek refuge rather than distraction. Praying in bed at night also creates intimacy. It feels personal, private, and direct. There is no distance, no formality, just a servant and their Lord. This intimacy changes the way a person views their relationship with Allah. He is no longer seen as distant or unreachable, but close and attentive. The night is also a time when gratitude becomes clearer. In the silence, a person reflects on the day that is past. They recognize moments of protection, unseen help, and quiet mercy. Even hardships look different when viewed through the calm of the night. Gratitude flows naturally when the heart is not rushed. Many people experience a deep sense of peace after nighttime prayer, even if nothing outwardly changes. This peace is not the absence of problems, but the presence of trust. Trust that Allah has heard. Trust that matters are in His hands. Trust that the heart is not alone in carrying its burdens. Quiet nights also strengthen awareness. A person becomes more conscious of their intentions, their mistakes, and their hopes. This awareness leads to reflection, and reflection leads to growth. Prayer in these moments is not just asking, it is aligning the heart. The stillness of the night creates a sacred space where prayer feels natural rather than forced. It allows a person to reconnect without pressure. Over time, these quiet moments shape the heart. They create a habit of turning inward and upward, of seeking Allah when the world is silent. This is why quiet nights invite deeper connection with Allah. Because when everything else fades, the heart finally has the courage to speak, to admit, to ask, and to trust. And in that quiet honesty, the bond between the servant and their Lord strengthens in ways that daylight distractions rarely allow, leaving the soul calmer, more grounded, and more aware of Allah's closeness. In every moment of stillness and rest, the night has a silence that the day does not carry. When the world slows down, distractions fade, and voices become distant, the heart finally has space to speak. During the day, the mind is crowded with responsibilities, expectations, and noise. Even when a person wants to pray, their thoughts pull them in many directions. But at night, especially when lying in bed, the soul feels exposed, and that exposure creates an opening for a deeper connection with Allah. Quiet nights strip life down to what truly matters. There are no performances, no comparisons, no pressure to appear strong. The phone is put away, the lights are off, and the world outside the room no longer demands attention. In this stillness, a person becomes more aware of their inner state. Worries surface, regrets appear, hopes quietly rise. This is not a coincidence. It is an invitation. Many people discover that they can speak to Allah more honestly at night than at any other time. The heart is softer. Tears come without effort. Words flow without fear. When a person prays in bed during these moments, they are not rushing. There is no clock watching them. There is no one waiting. That freedom allows sincerity to deepen. The quiet of the night amplifies the voice of the soul. What is whispered feels louder. What is thought feels heavier. A simple dua carries weight because it is not competing with noise. In this calm, remembrance becomes more focused. The heart listens as much as it speaks. And in that listening, clarity begins to form. Nighttime prayer also carries vulnerability. When the body is resting, defenses drop. The strength used to hold everything together during the day is gone. A person feels their dependence more clearly. They recognize how small they are, how much they need guidance, protection, and mercy. This awareness brings humility, and humility draws the heart closer to Allah. There are worries that only surface at night. Concerns about the future, fears about loss, questions without answers. During the day, these thoughts are buried under activity. At night, they rise. When a person turns these thoughts into dua instead of anxiety, something shifts. The weight does not always disappear, but it becomes bearable. The heart feels heard. Quiet nights teach patience. When everything is still, there is no escape from thoughts and emotions. Instead of running from them, a person learns to sit with them and place them before Allah. This practice builds emotional and spiritual strength. It trains the heart to seek refuge rather than distraction. Praying in bed at night also creates intimacy. It feels personal, private, and direct. There is no distance, no formality, just a servant and their Lord. This intimacy changes the way a person views their relationship with Allah. He is no longer seen as distant or unreachable, but close and attentive. The night is also a time when gratitude becomes clearer. In the silence, a person reflects on the day that has passed. They recognize moments of protection, unseen help, and quiet mercy. Even hardships look different when viewed through the calm of the night. Gratitude flows naturally when the heart is not rushed. Many people experience a deep sense of peace after nighttime prayer, even if nothing outwardly changes. This peace is not the absence of problems, but the presence of trust. Trust that Allah has heard. Trust that matters are in His hands. Trust that the heart is not alone in carrying its burdens. Quiet nights also strengthen awareness. A person becomes more conscious of their intentions, their mistakes, and their hopes. This awareness leads to reflection, and reflection leads to growth. Prayer in these moments is not just asking. It is aligning the heart. The stillness of the night creates a sacred space where prayer feels natural rather than forced. It allows a person to reconnect without pressure. Over time, these quiet moments shape the heart. They create a habit of turning inward and upward, of seeking Allah when the world is silent. This is why quiet nights invite deeper connection with Allah. Because when everything else fades, the heart finally has the courage to speak, to admit, to ask, and to trust. And in that quiet honesty, the bond between the servant and their Lord strengthens in ways that daylight distractions rarely allow. Many people underestimate small actions because they are waiting for something dramatic. They think change only comes from big decisions, long commitments, or powerful moments that feel intense and overwhelming. But in reality, life is shaped by what is repeated quietly, not what is done loudly once. In the spiritual journey, it is often the smallest sincere acts that leave the deepest mark on the heart. A small act becomes powerful when it is done with intention. When a person chooses to remember Allah for a few moments while lying in bed, tired and drained, that choice may seem insignificant, but it carries meaning because it reflects awareness. It shows that even in rest, even in weakness, Allah has a place in the heart, that awareness is the seed of spiritual growth. Life-changing results rarely announce themselves immediately. They begin subtly. A person may not feel a dramatic shift after a short prayer or a simple dua, but something begins to change beneath the surface. The heart becomes softer. The conscience becomes more alert. The habit of turning to Allah becomes easier. These changes are quiet, but they are powerful. Small, sincere acts also break patterns. A person who struggles with consistency often feels trapped by their own expectations. They see NK worship must look a certain way or feel a certain way. When they allow themselves to start small, that mental pressure eases. They stop waiting for the perfect moment and begin engaging with Allah in the moments they already have. Repetition gives small acts strength. A single drop of water seems weak, but repeated drops shape stone over time. In the same way, a short prayer done regularly reshapes the heart. It builds familiarity with remembrance. It creates a rhythm. That rhythm becomes part of daily life, quietly influencing decisions, reactions, and priorities. Sincere acts also carry honesty. When something is small, it is rarely done to impress. It is done because the heart needs it. A whispered dua, a moment of reflection, or a simple remembrance before sleep often comes from genuine need rather than habit. That honesty gives the act weight in the sight of Allah. Many people are surprised when they look back and realize how much has changed because of something they once considered minor. A habit of short nightly prayers leads to stronger trust. Trust leads to patience. Patience leads to clarity. Clarity leads to better choices. All of this can begin with a moment that felt almost unnoticeable at the time. Small acts also protect the heart during difficult seasons. When life becomes overwhelming, people often abandon big goals first. But small acts are easier to hold on to. They provide stability when everything else feels uncertain. A person who maintains even a small connection with Allah during hardship is less likely to feel completely lost. Sincerity gives these acts their transformative power. Without sincerity, repetition becomes routine. But with sincerity, repetition becomes nourishment. The heart begins to rely on these moments. They become a source of comfort, grounding, and reassurance. Over time, the heart associates peace with turning to Allah even. Briefly, these small acts also change self-perception. A person who once saw themselves as distant from Allah begins to see themselves as someone who remembers Him regularly. That shift in identity is powerful. It encourages growth. It builds confidence. It removes the feeling of being unworthy or disconnected. Life-changing results do not always look like immediate solutions. Sometimes they look like resilience, the ability to endure, the strength to remain hopeful, the calm to face uncertainty. These qualities are built gradually through consistent, sincere acts that nourish the soul. Praying in bed, making dua quietly, or remembering Allah before sleep may feel small, but they create space for reflection. They slow the mind. They soften the heart. They remind a person of what truly matters. Over time, this awareness influences how they handle stress, relationships, and decisions. Small, sincere acts also invite mercy. Allah's mercy is vast, and He loves consistency, even in small amounts. When a servant shows up regularly, even briefly, they are opening themselves to that mercy. That mercy appears in subtle ways: eased worries, unexpected calm, improved understanding, and inner strength. This is why small, sincere acts lead to life-changing spiritual results, because they are sustainable. They are honest. They are rooted in intention rather than pressure. They grow quietly, shaping the heart over time, building a connection that does not rely on dramatic moments but on steady remembrance. And through that steady remembrance, the soul finds direction, balance, and a deeper sense of closeness to Allah that continues to grow with every sincere moment given, no matter how small it once seemed.